still on the bottom. So when you let it down from the bottom, the neatest thing to do is just put your thumb on here a little bit, hold that old rock tip down when you're in the boat right against the water. When it hits the bottom, you're going to have a little bit of slack there. So take your time and roll the slack out, and you can actually raise it up and let it back down, and you can see it hit the bottom right there. And if you'll do that, and then if we're reeling it up 3 times, well, from where you start on that handle to go back to that same place is 1, 2, 3, just like that. And when you're sitting there and the fish is biting on that deal, some of these fish, and we'll just have to see how aggressive they are, they'll just grab it and hold it down, and that's a summertime bite. But right now, usually they'll just hit it about like a little old crappie. They'll hit it about 1 time or 2 times, just where the end of that thing just barely shakes. If you're sitting there holding it and they're doing that, well, just about this speed, let it down. And as you let it down, that fish will run off with that bait because there's no resistance to it when he's biting on it. And he thinks, well, this is sure enough a real deal. I'm going to get this bait, you know. And when he starts off, well, when you jerk on it, don't go like that because that's not going to catch you. Just jerk it up about head high. If you're sitting there in a boat or standing up, jerk it up above your head a little bit. And when you jerk it up there, we'll sit there and hold it, and then just take off reeling on it. If you don't think you got the strength to jerk it hard enough, when you first get him hooked, when you jerk it up, maybe just jerking that hard ball, turn that handle as hard as you can 3 or 4 times, and that'll actually set the hook in and help him stay on there. Now, when we're out there and we're fishing out in deep water, and the fish are down 30 feet, every reel is just alike. And what we do, about where that weight hits the water, this line will be plumb over to one side, all the way like this, and it'll be on this side or this side. And if I say let it down 30 feet, well, that's 3 times across. That'd be 1 time across, 2 times across, and when it gets back over against that side, just turn the handle and stop. And you're all about 30 feet. Most of these guys will tell the guys, will say, okay, pull it out. If we're going 30 feet, 15 times. Well, a man, woman, and kid all reach a different distance. Right. You're going to have the kid about 15 foot deep, and the woman's going to be 20 or 25 foot deep, and the man's going to be about 30 foot deep. So you haven't solved the thing. But this is just true to form right here. You're just letting it down like that. And if we're sitting there and you know you're down 3 times, and I say, okay, them fish are at 30 feet, or 20 feet. Okay, all you got to do is just sit there and slow reel it up to 20 feet, and you're where the fish are. Because, and you'll see when we get to catching fish, I'll say, how deep did you catch him? Well, all you got to say is, well, I was at 2.5, or 3.5, and 4, and everybody can go to that same depth. Right now, there's about 4 or 5 feet that they'll bite in when they're in that area. And if you're not in that area, you're not going to catch a fish. And you've seen people sit in a boat, and here's this old boy sitting right here, and he's just catching fish every time. Well, it's just a difference in the depth where they're going is all that it is. And so that just kind of simplified it a little bit.
And when they get a fish on, you don't want to reel it off.
Yeah, I'm going to show you.
Yeah, okay.
If you reel it, if you just slam that right up against there like that, when a fish comes in, and you're going to get excited and do something, it's no big deal. But when you roll it up that hard, if you'll just stick your hand in here and push down, it'll come down a little bit. And what's going to happen is right here, if you get an old big fish on there especially, and you reel it up all the way up, and that fish will stretch that line out, well, when it pops back, that weight right there will cut that knot in 2 right there. And you'll look out there and say, my fish. You know?
It ain't your fish.
But it broke the knot off what it did. The fish probably, and sometimes they just come off. But well, so many people, and they're so excited. When you're reeling the fish in, so many people, even if that old fish has got that pole bent down, do your best just to pull it up a little bit to where that you can see between the water and the weight. And when you're reeling him up, as soon as you see that weight, stop. And then just keep him tight then. And, you know, the thing that keeps a fish on there, it's not from the fact that you got it down here like this. When that fish is on the line and he's got that pole bent like that, as long as you keep that pole bent like that, that fish is not going to come off. But when he swims towards you and it gets straight like that, you've either got to raise that old pole up higher or you got to turn the heck out of that handle. Because some of these fish, when we hook them right now, they'll just swim right at you. It's like, don't pull, don't pull, don't pull. You know, like if you had somebody getting a hook in your hand. And that's all you got to do. I'll take the fish off for you and I'll bait your hooks. I know some of these guys, that's not the man thing to do for you. That's what you got me here for. So we'll get it done.